Hello, Giannis. Hello, Ursula. Many thanks, Joanna, for your time here. Hello, Luis. How are you doing? Welcome, Sultan, to this interview. Many thanks for your time. And also, I hope that you enjoyed so far this visit to Heinola, Finland. This is a great opportunity to ask questions about your region so we can know more about your region and also your expectations about NatureFin and also the work that we do. So I will start with a first basic question. Please, could you briefly introduce yourself, your region, and also, of course, your organization?
I'm Yannis Tsoukalidis. I'm advisor to the mayor of Pageo, Mr. Philippos Anastasiadis, working for EU-funded projects. Municipality of Pageo is in northeast Greece.
I am Justida Polena. I am from Albania. I represent in the Nature Farm project the municipality of Malic. I am the head of the EU integration and coordination of foreign aid at the municipality of Malic.
My name is Rona Farias. I'm the technical support team coordinator of Intermunicipal Community of Beiras and Serra da Estrela region and the project manager of NatureFin projects. Beiras and Serra da Estrela region is in the center of Portugal and borders Spain at 15 municipalities.
Well, my name is Luis Soriano. I work as an engineer in the sustainability department of the Diputación de Badajoz. Diputación de Badajoz is the provincial council of Badajoz province.
My name is Zoltán Tóth. I'm coming from Hungary, and I represent Somogy County government. We are one of the project partners.
So, what is one practical change your organization would like NatureFin to help advance in your policy instrument? So, if NatureFin supports your policy instrument, then what is one practical change you will see in your policy instrument?
First of all, a big problem is the contrast between the development in the seaside and the mountainous area, not because there are no opportunities or assets in the mountainous area, but especially private investments are attracted more to the seaside because it is easier and faster payback investments. That's why the investors prefer to go there. So what change we would like to see is that we could improve this imbalanced situation, which will be beneficial also for the villages on the mountain, but will also expand the tourism season, which will be also beneficial for the other investments.
One practical change we would like to find is to support and the improving our and the understanding of how biodiversity and sustainability considerations can be better reflected in local in our general local plane and the decision makings.
Okay, so we would like the NatureFin project to help us define and integrate criteria relating to biodiversity, ecosystem services, and nature-related risks into regional planning and investment process. We also want to help us to align regional policies and regulation with European principles and regulations in the field of sustainable finance, and also to create the conditions for attracting public and private funding to support sustainable and nature positive projects.
We are trying to implement the environmental protection criteria in this plan. With this plan, we provide funding for local entities and enterprises to carry on activities. And with this criteria, we want to focus that in activities that are positive for the nature, according to the European Union objectives.
We would like to integrate nature-based solutions into our policy instruments, and it would be a benefit for us if we could have this kind of evaluation processes and selection criteria in our policy instrument.
So, what makes it difficult for nature positive projects to go from ideas to execution? Maybe it's funding, or maybe it's about capacity. What do you think?
Well, sometimes there are different things that are becoming barriers. For instance, in protected areas, the restrictions are higher, and that is good. So any investment should be complying with such restrictions, which is not always welcomed by the investors themselves. Another problem will be where the private investment goes, because public funding is available in general, uh, as long as you comply with the restrictions. The other is that many investors and people think that when we have a protected area, we shouldn't touch it at all. So this is a misunderstanding because we can always have investments that are sustainable.
I think that the main challenge is translating long-term environmental objectives into concrete local initiatives that are feasible within existing institutional and financial capacities, and also the limited technical resources.
The main barriers are a lack of technical capacity and methodologies to demonstrate the environmental benefits of projects, the limited access to sustainable finance as projects involving conservation, ecological restoration, or ecosystems enhancement struggle to demonstrate an economic return and thus meet the requirements set by funders and investors. And furthermore, projects involving ecological restoration, sustainable forest management, or nature conservation typically yield long-term benefits, and the investors seek for a more predictable results. We also have a lack of metrics and data because it is difficult to measure and quantify the benefits of biodiversity and ecosystem services, and there are no standardized indicators, which makes it harder to justify investments and monitor the results.
The problem is economic in nature, because if you want to achieve higher standard in nature protection, you have to invest more money, and this could be a problem for local entities and enterprise. So we want to provide them, as I said before, with funding for these activities more optimized to protect the nature.
Don't have really much experience in that topic, so it would be the most difficult thing for us to have these things on site, and that is why important to listen to our other partners and be familiar with their good practices.
I have another question. So, how can local or regional authorities make these projects, these nature positive projects, more useful and appealing for businesses, for local society, communities? I mean, to gain more support from the society so these can go from ideas to reality?
That's a question that most probably has more than one answer. First of all, we have to talk about the people who live there, the civil society organizations like cultural associations, people who know the area, know the assets, work and live there, so they know the capacity. But usually they don't know the way for funding, the way to organize bottom-up approaches for local programs with respect to the regulations. I strongly believe that a good and extended communication with the locals, stakeholders and investors that goes not in one shot, but through a communication strategy will be a very first and good step, starting from the locals.
They can make nature positive projects more relevant by ensuring that they address real local needs and deliver visible benefits for communities. In rural areas, people are more likely to support environmental initiatives when they are linked to practical outcomes.
Okay, so local and regional authorities can make nature-friendly projects more effective and attractive if they manage to combine environmental conservation with tangible benefits for the local economy, quality of life, and competitiveness. In our region, in particular, we can identify some relevant measures, such as involving communities in the process of setting priorities and identifying solutions, whilst communicating the associated costs and benefits transparency, supporting businesses in the sustainable transition through technical assistance to meet environmental and sustainable finance requirements, facilitating access to European and national funds, driving and promoting pilot projects that demonstrate competitive advances linked to sustainability.
Yeah, I think that it's important to raise awareness, the stakeholders and the society about the necessity of protect the biodiversity and environment. So therefore, the public administration had to positively force positive projects in related to environment, providing funds and that kind of support to raise this project and allow them to become a reality.
Stakeholder meetings are one of the most important things that we have. We have to give some advices, some suggestions, and some knowledge about this topic, because in our area, in our region, there are no such instruments happened or appeared in the previous periods.
Is there one local example, initiative, or good practice that you could share with the NatureFin partners to learn for? Good practice that you have seen, or good practice that you have worked with, or initiative? One local example that you can say this can be really useful for you, other partners of NatureFin.
Yes, our approach for the intervention area, Pageo, is related to a protected area where the biodiversity is very important and precious. I think that based on that, we can bring the example of the biodiversity assessment that we have completed in 3 or 4 years ago with a very high quality scientific research and work. I presume this is a good practice because when we relate investments to areas with precious biodiversity, we have to have all the information available.
One example that maybe could be interested the NatureFin project and the NatureFin partner is our experience with the mixed forest, Fazan forest, and the management that we do, that our municipality had done to this forest. So this approach supports biodiversity, conservation, sustainable use of natural resources, and ecosystem resilience.
Yes, we can talk a little bit about a project that we already identify as a good practice in NatureFin project is the Mondego Boardwalks, which is a nature-based investment that generates economic, social, and environmental benefits. This project was developed within the Nature 2000 network and the Natural Park of Serra da Estrela and combines tourist development with the protection of nature assets, combating the economic and demographic decline of inland rural areas, and creating opportunities for accommodation, catering, local trade, and nature-based activities.
Well, from the Diputación de Badajoz, we're working in a lot of activities around sustainability. We have just presented several months ago a provincial plan for adaptation to the climate change. We are working in implementing renewable energies in all the municipalities. By example, we have provided a great impulse in electric mobility in the province. Actually, we have a network or charging station, which is almost unique in Spain.
In Somogy, there are many places, many settlements where we have thermal water coming from the ground. In Barcs and in Nagyatád, they implemented such infrastructural and energetical projects that are based on the reuse of the thermal water. The used water can be used for heating buildings, especially municipality-owned buildings in the settlements, and they can be cost-effective.
I also have another question. So from this Heinola meeting, we had some sessions today, as you know. So what is one idea or observation that you think is useful for your region? Maybe from communication or from sustainable finance topics that we have seen, or any other idea that you think is useful?
We've seen an example of large investment, a big business actually, that benefits from natural resources. This is a very good example that nature is not something that we not touch. Nature is something that we touch with respect.
This meeting here was very useful for us. All the exercises and all the discussion that we made with each other, they helped us a lot. We learned to collaborate with each other, to help each other, to find all the difficulties, and to say that we are here to help you to improve.
At the end of the meeting, we will have very good ideas that we can adapt in our territory to fit the objective of NATUREFIN project.
I think that every visit is useful because we learn a lot about the other partners' problem. This is a rural community similar to my province, my region, and I think we have a lot of things to learn in every visit.
What I've learned is that how Finnish people use and treat their forests. We visited the sawmill or the wooden factory, and we heard very interesting lectures from them, and I think that was the most interesting part.
So, final question for you. So, if NatureFin works well, what is one difference one can see, or one could see in the future in your region? So, NatureFin works, NatureFin project is completed. Then, what will be different in your region?
A significant difference will be to see the youth staying in the area. See youth staying in the area means that they will believe that there are real and actual opportunities for investing for their lives. So this means the social and economic life.
I think that in Malish will be better equipped to integrate biodiversity and sustainability consideration into local planning, general local plan, and the decision making. We hope to strengthen our institutional knowledge, stakeholders' cooperation, and our understanding of practical approaches that support nature positive development.
We find it with NatureFin project, we think we may find it easier to secure funding for projects relating to ecological restoration, sustainable forest management, biodiversity conservation, river enhancement, nature tourism, or climate change adaptation. Nature could be regarded as an economic asset, and biodiversity and ecosystems would come to be seen as factor in attracting investment, creating jobs, supporting tourism, increasing resilience to wildfire, improving water management, and promoting local products. So the intermunicipal community and our 15 municipalities will be able to incorporate criteria relating to biodiversity, ecosystem services, and environmental risks into the assessment of projects and applications, And in this way, public investment will tend to favor solutions that generate both environmental and economic benefits. The region will be better prepared to secure funding linked to the European Green Deal, climate adaptation, and sustainable finance, as the project will be more closely aligned with the European requirements.
As I told you before, our objective is to improve the strategic subsidy plan for the province. So we hope that if we implement the criteria to protect the environment and biodiversity, maybe in the future we are going to see new activities in the province more focused in that sense.
We will have more projects. The permitting phase or the preparation phase can project developers and project managers can think about biodiversity questions, because maybe it's not in the everyday life nowadays in Hungary or in Somogy.
So many thanks, Giannis, for your time. So see you later.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Anthony.
Thank you very much.